Before I jump into deformers, I want to cover a quick organizational topic. Most deformers are secondary objects, which means that they act upon another object, kind of like if I tried to mash this into this. Now, the organizational structure that's going to help here will keep the deformer in line with the object it's going to deform, and that concept is called a parent-child relationship. So if I use these objects, right now the cube and the sphere are completely separate. I can make the cube the child of this sphere by selecting the cube first, the sphere second, and pressing the P key on my keyboard. It won't look like anything happened to the cube. I can still move the cube by itself, but anytime I click on the sphere, you'll see that that will also move the cube because the cube is the child of the sphere. If I look at this relationship here in my outliner, I can see here's my sphere, there's this little plus sign, and there's the cube. This relationship is very similar to the grouping relationship that you've already seen. If I middle mouse drag this, I can drop it here, and that will break the parent-child relationship. If I middle mouse drag this and drop it here, that will create a parent-child relationship. So there are two ways I can create a parent-child relationship. One is by selecting the child first, the parent second, and then pressing P. The other one is by middle mouse dragging and dropping in my outliner. They will work exactly the same way. And now when I look at these four shapes, the sphere is the ultimate parent, then the cube is the parent of these two, then the cylinder is the child of this one. I can rearrange them if I take the cone and middle mouse drag it up here onto the cube. Now the cube will be the parent of both the cylinder and the cone, and neither one of them will have any children at all. These relationships are very flexible, but they are all single-parent families. There's always going to be one parent and then as many children as you want. The fun thing is that a group node is also a parent-child relationship. Some of you probably noticed that if you press Ctrl-G with nothing selected, that creates a thing called a null. The null is a group node. If I take this and nest it inside the null, now the null becomes a group containing these objects. Some of you are probably wondering, what's the difference? Why would I do this? When I create a parent-child relationship, my p-cone has its pivot point here, my p-cube has its pivot point here. When I rotate from the cube. The group node contains its own pivot point with no object, so I can always have a central location where my pivot point can be. Because of this, the group node tends to be more useful for things like materials and lights, where the parent-child relationship tends to be more useful for things like animation and rigging. As you gain more experience, you'll start to be able to determine for yourself when you want a parent-child and when you want that group node with the extra pivot. As we go through deformers, we'll be using parents and children, so you'll get some experience with them there.